And first question, growing up, what were the films that shaped your life and drew you to acting in the first place?
I would have to say the TV shows, I guess, first and foremost would be, because I think you start at that place, you know, with TV, because you're able to watch that slowly but surely with your family and in the confines of your home in a real crawl before you walk type of way. And I would say Different Strokes was massive for me. Definitely Jefferson's, Good Times, Fred Sanford, probably because I always feel a connection to my grandfather in terms of watching it with him. Yeah, those are the ones that really stand out to me. Obviously Cosby Show at some point, but in terms of film, everything from Great White Hope, which obviously starred James Earl Jones, to Clash of the Titans. That was a big movie for me. I remember watching Raging Bull when I was young. And I remember just, you know, connecting with Robert De Niro and whatever rage he was displaying in that. I must have been 11 or 12 years old when I saw it, and I remember thinking, whoa. And then as I got, you know, more into those teen years, anything that was Spike Lee, Do the Right Thing was massive for me. It was such a statement and such a poem at the same time. And he just did a great job of amalgamating all the voices that existed within America as we knew it at that point, and giving everyone a microphone was so unique for that movie specifically, but also for the other movies that he was making equally. Mo Better Blues was huge for me, and to see Denzel and Wesley together, and rest in peace Bill Nunn and Giancarlo Esposito, and just, you know, Danny Aiello, obviously, you know, that was a John Turturro. That was a big deal for me.
In college, you were a football player and also had a minor in acting. What did both those experiences satisfy in you? What need did they fill in your soul?
I think, you know, I was trying to figure out the duality of me, you know, knowing that the next person to the left or to the right equally was in that same space of trying to figure that out. I talk to a lot of people in my generation presently, and you know, being born in the 70s, I hope for that. Being born in the 70s, equally being raised in the Reaganomics moment, where Whoopi Goldberg, who's a dear friend, but before she was a friend, I often heard her say, we were all, and I was a kid, so she's not including me, but anyone who had a little bit of money, who would have been the age of our parents, her point was we were all throwing everything we could at the wall in terms of ownership. For the first time ever, particularly within the black community, we were able to own some things. So she's always speaking about the fact that we were owning too many things. You know, like you could get a loan for 5 houses instead of just smartly getting one home. And so when I think about that moment, for me as a young kid, I think it's kind of cool that I was able to see the moment where teenagers had to earn whatever we had to earn, including watching those aforementioned TV shows that I liked. Meaning you couldn't DVR it, you couldn't rewind it. If you missed it, you missed it. You got to go back the next week and watch it. So you earned everything that you got. You know, you valued a toy. I watch my kids now. I mean, hell, kids from the projects got cell phones. Mm-hmm. So everybody's got a lot more, and they have it a lot quicker. And at that moment, my stylist said yesterday, he and my makeup artist were talking, they both said you shouldn't be able to, at 12 years of age, have clothing items that grown people have. And nowadays, you know, you got 17-year-old, even down to 12-year-olds who are wearing the same thing that a 40-year-old parent of theirs is wearing, which is crazy. So, to Whoopi's point, yeah, there were a lot of things thrown at the wall in terms of stickability or seeing what could stick as adults in the black community again. specifically for the first time ever, but in all of the communities, in all races, creeds, colors, both genders. And it was nice as a teenager to feel like a teenager, like you had to earn your keep. And I really value that. I came up in an era where I had to, earn that keep. And so I was trying to figure out the duality of being an ambitious kid who one day could go and try to grab it and make life happen, but equally knowing that patience truly is more than a virtue. It's a manner of life, and a patient person should die being eulogized. Here lie the patient person. So I was trying to figure that duality out, and I think there's patience in being an athlete, if that makes sense. It's a process. You do it a technical, right way a million times, even if you know you're a million times faster than your teammates who need to do it technically correct, but you're so raw in gift, you can do it without being that technical. But equally, adhering to the technicalities of it all, the craft, the way you're supposed to do it. Sport taught me that, and there's been a movement in a very marathon way to my movement in life as a man, as a son, as a life mate, as a father, as a teammate, a colleague, what have you, a castmate. There's been that kind of arduous marathon type of dutiful trudging for me, and I try to, give permission to those people around me, particularly, colleagues of mine, to be able to move in that same fashion, and equally knowing that go get it attitude or that Mamba mentality, rest in peace Kobe, that I equally possessed. As a guy that was doubling in the world of art as it pertains to storytelling on stage, because in college I was just doing it on stage or through spoken word poetry or what have you. That allowed me this permission to be ambitious and to go, well, I don't have to be the normal run-of-the-mill athlete. I can do some things that, maybe the likes of a Muhammad Ali or athletes like that, I could get down like them. So that's what it allowed. I think the marriage of the two allowed me to embrace all the parts of me.
After college, you wanted to become a professional football player, which unfortunately didn't pan out. You also were a struggling actor for many years, even living in your car at one point. Can you talk about this time in your life and how you were able to stay motivated even when things were hard?
Living in the car was an interesting moment for me because, I remember being, it kind of took me into this space. I was still in acting class and still working certain jobs, but I remember, because I felt so freaking Jamaican during that time, so many odd jobs, but I remembered, it was good in the sense that I was quietly with myself, and I think that even people in platonic or romantic relationships should value quiet more. I think you really know somebody and you know that you love them when you can exist next to them quietly. And so I was having to really love myself. COVID drove people crazy. Some people committed suicide. Some people knew not what to do. They went stir crazy. So when I think back on that time, I'm like, it wasn't even COVID. But I was absolutely having to deal with my own thoughts, which sometimes can be the loudest thing in the world. It was definitely loud for me. And I was, and what kept me motivated were those conversations with myself, And at times I remember reaching out to moms and pops and being like, I'm done, I'm cool. And they were like, nope, didn't send you that far out to come back. So different, particularly as a black family, so different. Typically they can't wait for you to call and say, all right, I tried, I'm good. Mom and pops like, nope, gave me $2,500 and said stay put. Yours is not a walk that's supposed to be given up on. That's fucking powerful. So I thank them for that, even though I often felt misunderstood by them. During that time, me and Pops weren't close. And Mom's always, to me, saw the size of me, but didn't necessarily know how to exist next to that size. But she always saw my size. Pops knew how to exist next to that size, but during that side of me that he felt was big, but during that time, again, he and I weren't necessarily close. So I did feel alone, and I felt motivated. That the athlete always helps. Even if your kids aren't athletic, I would say to all parents, give them a shot at playing sport, because it really does teach you, it challenges you. And I was able to benefit from having been an athlete and living in those 3-a-day practices, forget 2-a-day, sometimes 3-a-day practices where you really don't know if you're gonna make it through the practice, let alone 15 more of those practices. And that's what it felt like. It felt like a massive pledge process for me. Having, ironically, in college also, having pledged a fraternity, close to my last year, my junior year in college. So I just kind of felt like it was grad school for me. LA, New York. I was right here in New York doing Meisner, studying Shakespeare. Then went to LA. It was 99-cent chicken sandwiches from Jack in the Box. And a lot of quiet conversations with myself. It helped that I was a writer. So to write poetry and to be able to perform on stage and get that out at least sort of gave me the gasoline or fuel to make it through the next week. But sometimes I feel like I was paying my figurative or spiritual rent with just writing poems.
And for your role in the series Saved, you trained for 2 years as a fireman and paramedic. Are you a method actor? How do you go about connecting with the character you are going to play?
Definitely a method actor. I'll answer backwards to front. So I'll answer your latter question first, for sure, a method actor. But ironically, that was not a method, I must say, in terms of firefighting, connecting to the paramedic world on Save. It just was God. I had a girlfriend, pretty serious girlfriend, my first adult relationship, I would say post-college. And she was a school teacher in the Valley in Los Angeles, California. And she, to this day, and I've had these conversations with her, she'll say, I never saw you not making it. I had a real issue with figuring out how to be next to you on a roller coaster. But I never didn't think you'd be where you are. So she and her pops asked me one day, what else could you do? Football didn't work out. I said, in terms of passion, could actually wake up and be okay doing, I would say firefighting. So both of their eyes lit up because in their mind, firefighting was, again, something you could sort of have while also pursuing acting. 2 days on, 3 days off, 3 days on, 2 days off, what have you. And in reality, I went out for it. And, she and I ended up splitting. But ironically, I don't know how to start something and quit it really well. So I was really in the throes of becoming a firefighter. While in 9 hours of acting class every week, some extra hours in terms of the same acting teacher teaching the perspective of acting to directors. I would go to her director's seminar about acting. And then again, had about 2 or 3 jobs on the side. Credit got clean, because you can't go out for firefighting without your credit getting clean. You get a new tattoo, you got to explain it and what the new tattoo is. Has any family member tried to commit suicide? No. Next week, ask you the same thing. Very differing process than that of going out for the police department, which says a lot about our police. No slights or disrespect to the good police officers, but we have some crazy police officers. And I understand why. Their process is not the same. Firefighting had me on point. I didn't feel like an artsy-fartsy dreaming actor anymore, which I needed to feel like. I'm one of those bleeding artists, and I felt a little bit too clean and too, again, credit together type thing. And that just seemed weird to me, but again, broke up with her, kept going out for it, and then finally, the day that I said no to the fire department, which was probably 8-something in the morning, suited and booted, in front of LA City fire team and administrative, which was Chief Pomatri. He was the chief of LA City at the time. I said no, and about 3 hours later, maybe down to the minute, if it was 8:30 something in the morning, it was probably 11:30 when this call came, and it was a call that I booked my first movie, a Spike Lee movie, 3 hours later. So that's obviously God, but no, I did not go through or via the method route of getting involved with firefighting, so to inform the character that I played, which moved me to Vancouver to play the paramedic character. It just kind of worked. That's when life and story meet face to face, and it works out. But I am a method actor. I go about getting into characters in a very slow, arduous way. I guess the way my journey has been, I feed them inside out, try to figure out their shoes, try to figure out their hat in terms of exterior, if they wear a hat, if they don't, do they have hair, do they not? But just the insides of who they are, The horn has to have a particular sound already built inside it before the cool fingers of the plucking of the keys on the horn rocks. You got to figure out the sound that you are. What music you like as this character. What would be your soundtrack? What did you not like in your upbringing? What was okay in your upbringing? Like I build these characters really, really slowly. And I think it's qualified as in terms of being a African American actor whose method I think is qualified in the sense that we still sometimes get pulled over by the method police or the actor police and go, that's a little too method. So it's really deep, but dare I say, I think it's a little bit more freedom allowed for a Leo DiCaprio or John Bernthal, who's a dear friend of mine, or Chris Pine, or Garrett Dillahunt, who was just my castmate, or Matthias, you know, the German safecracker in Army of the Dead. I think it's a little bit more of an allowance for them to fill the space of their character using whatever method they choose. You know, Leo talks about being scared a bit of the incomparable Daniel Day-Lewis when he was prepping for not There Will Be Blood, but Gangs of New York, and he said he was listening to Eminem, the most rage-filled music Eminem could offer. And he said every single day, me and Cameron Diaz were like, ugh, a little afraid of him. And I think it's qualified sometimes for Black Americans in terms of us going into method. You can't go full into that method, that you want to go into sometimes. But I still try as hard as I can because I got to feed the story. That's my job.